Even though you tried to convey to Aizawa that you were fine, the meeting Hawks arranged with you and Endeavor still shook you to the core. It was a brief meeting, and both you and Endeavor didn't know about one another's presence. The whole thing lasted for 5 minutes as you excused yourself and told Hawks you had no business dealing with the #1 pro hero. You should have guessed, though, that Hawks would collaborate with him, as he was #2, and it made sense they would try to target the League of Villains together. The reason he asked you to be part of it was your lesser-known reputation in Hero Society and your involvement with UA. Despite your quirk, which was a branch of a fire quirk and somewhat common among quirks except for its hidden features, your early training with your quirk started with Aizawa, and Aizawa, being Aizawa, never wanted you to rely on your quirk alone, so you were trained by him to be much more than firepower. You picked up his style more than you realized. You were a hero of the dark, just like him. It was tough given your powers, but you rarely used them as they were intended to be used, as your father Endeavor and your brother Shoto used their power. That was the reason Hawks thought you might be a good fit for some missions to accompany him. Some very sketchy missions, to be fair. You could not shake off the feeling that Hawks was hiding something he knew, as you were hiding your relation with him from Aizawa. You wished you had listened to him when he warned you about Hawks, but he was all charming and had a sweet, sweet tongue, and well, that sweet tongue, when put to use in different aspects, was somewhat mind-blowing. You would rather run 100 laps than admit to Aizawa the type of relationship you had involved yourself in with Hawks. That was not the time to think about how soft Hawks's feathers felt against your skin, what he could do with a single one of those to drive you into climax. Yet here you were, thinking about it as you walked out of the shower and tried so hard to focus. Well, lack of sleep could only do so much good for you. You bit your lip, pushing any thought about Hawks back in your mind as you walked down the stairs just to meet Class 1A around the table eating breakfast. Aizawa left the morning warm-up to you so he could check up on Eri. You were not a teacher, but you were hired last year as a part-time trainer by UA. Sato was sharing his cakes and sugary breakfast with the class, and the table was filled with muffins, cupcakes, pancakes, oven-baked cakes, and hot chocolate. Momo was trying to style Mina's hair, and Jiro was writing something that looked like a new song. Midoriya was talking to Ida and Uraraka, while Tokoyami was occasionally adding something to the conversation. Kirishima and Sero were showing their hero cards to an unimpressed Bakugo, and Mineta and Kaminari were trying to find photos of Ms. Midnight online. You sighed, rolling your sleeves up as you grabbed their necks and pressed their heads together, which made the whole room turn toward you. "Sensei," they said in unison, except for Kaminari and Mineta, who were both apologizing. "For the 100th time, don't call me that," you said, almost sounding as tired as Aizawa always was, but then you clapped your hands together. "We're going to do a very fun training today," you announced, and almost all of the students shrank away in their seats except for Midoriya and Ida. You could not blame them. The description of fun was losing meaning the more they dealt with your type of warm-ups, but you didn't mind. As they got ready to meet you outside, you grabbed yourself a 2-shot espresso and began walking them through the session. "We are playing hide-and-seek today," you announced. This was one of the games Aizawa taught you when you newly developed your powers. "But some students have better advantages at hiding," Sero said, looking confused. You gave the class a mischievous smile. "Exactly. That is why they are the seekers." You clapped your hands. "Toru, would you please stand next to me?" you said to the invisible girl as she walked toward you, and you started explaining the game. "Toru is going to be the seeker, but she doesn't know who she will be tracking." The students went blank. "The goal of the seeker is either finding the hider or finding out who the hider is. Both make the seeker win the round. We pick the hider with a random number, so the hider not only should hide him or herself, but also any evidence of the quirk. Toru has 10 minutes to find the assigned hider or find the identity of the hider, or she will lose the round," you announced, and immediately a murmur started with students trying to build a strategy over the game. You asked Toru to get back into the dorm as you assigned a number to each student and chose one randomly with your phone. The remaining students were sent to the showroom to see the game by the cameras that were placed around the field. You joined them to see how Ida would manage to hide from her. Their quirks were so embedded in their movements that they sometimes forgot they needed to cover their tracks if they were to initiate a surprise attack. So the game brought up strategy without using their quirk, which was fun by your standards, but tough for them to manage. As you stood watching the game with other students and hearing Midoriya's non-stop analysis, Toru, almost halfway through the game, realized she was chasing after Ida since he ran at some point, making the branches direct evenly in his path. The next round was Koda as the seeker and Bakugo as the hider. You took another sip of your espresso, your mind drifting again. You could not help remembering how you hid from Enji Todoroki when he was looking for you to shove you back into the training room. You hid so well that your father, at some point, to stop you running away from the training room, locked you up inside the same room so you wouldn't get a chance to hide anymore. Your mind snapped back from those memories to the day Aizawa rescued you from that damned place. It was your 5th birthday that day, and you were curled up behind the locked doors of the training room. You hoped your father gave up on you developing powers by then, but the man could never accept that. You heard your mother behind the door. "Enji, at least let me give her dinner," your mother said. "She gets to eat when she shows something useful," your father barked back. Your mother didn't argue. His tone scared her, so she remained quiet as the door opened and Endeavor stepped in. You immediately stood up, your hands wrapped around your arms. You learned not to cry anymore. Crying made him angrier, so you stood there looking at his feet. You didn't dare look up. You were scared to look at him. The anger, the viciousness in his eyes were intolerable. "I told you to practice, not stay in the corner," he barked, and you remained silent. Practice what? You didn't have a quirk. How could practice make you have one? He took one step toward you, and you took a step back. Your back hit the wall. He yanked you up as he shouted into your face, "What the hell are you? You are not even my child." You wanted to cover your ears. Your hair was red, your eyes green, the color of his, yet he could not recognize you as anything but the failure he saw in you. "What is this useless quirk of yours you are not showing me?" he yelled, shaking you mid-air. You tried to push the idea of him letting go out of your mind. He was tall, and the way he was shaking you mid-air made you afraid that he might just drop you from that height. Of course, your fears were always true. As the doorbell rang, he let out a groan and let go of your shirt, and you fell on the ground. You bit your lips so hard not to make any noise as you hit the floor with a thud. As your father left to open the door, he forgot to lock it, and you saw your brother's eyes sneaking inside the room as he left. Toya was looking at you with something you saw in Endeavor's eyes. Disgust. "Why don't you have a quirk? Even Fuyumi is showing some signs, and she is just 2, Toya said. You knew he didn't care much about you. He wanted Endeavor all for himself. He wanted the attention of his father more than anything, and he also picked up some of the worst qualities of him. You heard the 2 of them talking about you, and apparently Endeavor was happy to convey his ideas to his son. Toya's quirk was hotter than your father's when it first appeared. You thought your father would finally let you be and give up on you, yet that never happened." Toya raised a brow at your silence and finally said, "Mom left some food for you in the fridge," he said as you raised your head. Your stomach was growling, and you could hear Enji Todoroki was busy talking to someone downstairs. You walked past Toya to go to the kitchen. Toya shrugged. He was not interested in you, so he ran to the end of the hall shouting, "Fuyumi, do you want to play?" You doubted a 2-year-old could play. As you passed the stairs to the kitchen, you saw your father talking with 2 people. You immediately recognized All Might standing there. You never saw him this up close. He was magnificent in your eyes. You caught a glimpse of him from time to time on TV. The symbol of peace. The man Enji Todoroki hated even more than you. That was a lie, of course. You knew he never hated anyone as much as he hated you. As you were stunned by seeing All Might standing in all his glory, your eyes caught another man. He was thin, smaller than Pro Heroes number 1 and 2, and a bit younger, but he didn't look like a hero. He wore a black hero suit with yellow glasses rested on top of his head and a white scarf around him. He seemed, well, somewhat annoyed by the conversation. "Come on, Endeavor. We were looking for Stain for a while now, and Eraserhead here has a lead on him." All Might laid a confirming hand on the other man's shoulder, which by his face you could tell he was not interested in receiving this type of encouragement. Eraserhead cleared his voice. "Stain would hide away from All Might, but if I put myself as bait, you get a chance to arrest him," he told Endeavor. "Stain is not my problem. The lunatic has an agenda for how he targets, and it is related to All Might, not me," Endeavor said, and you remembered you needed to eat since the conversation might end at any moment. You began to sneak to the kitchen. All Might and Eraserhead were facing you, while Endeavor's back was all you could see of him, so it should have been easy to get to the kitchen. You managed 3 steps when suddenly you heard All Might's voice. "Well, look at that. It seems one of your children is interested in the subject." All Might was probably looking for a thread to connect himself more with Endeavor. As much as Endeavor saw him as his competition, All Might wanted to show that he was not seeing him that way, which in return pissed Endeavor even more. "Toya, get back to—" Endeavor turned, and you felt a cold chill running into your bones as his eyes fixed on you. He always hid you from everyone. The reason for it was obvious, and this was the first time someone outside of the family saw you. He didn't even let you go to kindergarten like Toya did. The next thing you knew, Inji Todoroki was coming up the stairs 2 at a time as you moved backward. "How are you out of the room?" he yelled, and you took a few steps back trying to explain. "I was hungry, and the door was open, so I thought—" The man shoved you, and your back hit the ground. "You thought? You can think?" he barked at you. You saw his hand raised. You closed your eyes and raised your hands involuntarily to stop the impact of his slap, but the slap never landed on you this time. "What the—" You heard Endeavor's voice and opened your eyes just to see his hand was stopped mid-air by something around his wrist, a white scarf holding it before it connected with your face. Endeavor turned back, and you could pick who was stopping him. The man called Eraserhead was looking at Endeavor. His eyes turned red, unlike the first time you saw him. "You are hitting a child," the man said. Now his voice was stronger as he stated the fact like it wasn't normal for Endeavor to hit you. You blinked. Nobody ever dared to stop Endeavor. Not your mother, not your siblings, nobody. "Mind your own business, Eraser," Endeavor spat. You knew that you had a chance. You needed to run to the training room to avoid further anger from him, but you could not help stopping yourself. As Endeavor fisted the scarf and pulled it hard, you thought Eraserhead would be dragged by it and get a fire punch by your father, but as he pulled the man by his own scarf, no fire came out of your father. You could not follow the man's movement, but you vaguely saw him being pulled by the scarf, yet he evaded Endeavor's punch to his stomach and jumped over his shoulder like an acrobat to place himself between you and your father. You could not believe what you were seeing. "All Might! Take your unleashed dog out of my house!" Endeavor growled. "Endeavor, you were hitting a kid just now," All Might said as he started climbing the stairs, but you didn't pay much attention to him. You were looking at the black figure standing between you and your father. He was facing your father. His shoulders were tight, his breathing was fast, and you realized that he was angry at your father. He didn't move or talk, he was just standing there, and you realized that man would not move aside. Endeavor's fist raised. You wanted to warn your savior, but he was 1 step ahead of you. His left leg came back in a fighting stance, his right hand shielding you, but before Endeavor landed his punch at him, All Might held his wrist. "Endeavor," he said. There was a warning in his tone. "How I train my children is none of your concern. Get the hell out of my house." Endeavor's voice roared, and you shrieked behind your savior. Your hand snatched his left leg, hiding yourself more behind him. He flinched, and you thought maybe he didn't like that you hid away behind him, but his eyes for a second turned to you. It was not red anymore. It was not angry when he looked at you. He turned back to your father. "I will report your behavior. This girl is—" "How dare you come to my house, ask me for help, and then threaten me?" Endeavor barked. "Aizawa-kun," All Might warned as he gestured toward your mother and your siblings. Toya was standing there, wanting to intervene for his father, as your mother held his shoulder with one hand, stopping him. Fuyumi was clenching her dress, hiding behind her, and the newborn Natsuo was crying in your mother's arm. "We are not looking to cause trouble for your family." All Might looked at your mother, trying to explain that to her, but she remained blank. Aizawa's eyes darted at All Might. "I am not leaving this child in their care," he said. All Might rubbed his forehead. "She deserved it. She is quirkless," Toya screamed, defending his father. Apparently, that should have cleared and justified your father, Toya expected. You expected that too. You expected that Aizawa would back off with this explanation since you didn't know better. But Aizawa turned around, facing toward you as you murmured. "That's true. I don't have a quirk," you managed to say. Don't cry, you told yourself. But to your surprise, Aizawa bent down. You closed your eyes, thinking he might do the same as your father, but he scooped you up in his arm, not like how your father used to pick you up. Aizawa's voice was shaking with anger, but not at you.
You must answer for this.
His voice was calm, which helped you hide your face into his white scarf. The scarf reacted to you somehow, which was impossible, but it slowly wrapped around you. You didn't see how All Might nodded and turned to Endeavor.
Enji, this is unacceptable.
Apparently, something shifted in Endeavor's perspective as Aizawa began walking toward the door, taking you with him. You expected your father to stop him. You flinched into his arms, your body tight, waiting to be dragged out each second. But the hands never came to separate you from the man who saved you. Aizawa took you out, and you never realized what happened with Endeavor and All Might. But Endeavor never came back for you.